everyone, Jason Hitchings with Adept Defense. So today we're going to go over what I pack in my range bag. Whether I'm taking a class or teaching a class, what I pack really doesn't change a whole lot. We'll talk about that, but this is a video I've had several requests for in the past couple months, so we're going to do it today. So let's jump right in. Alright, so starting with the bag itself, this is a bag from LA Police Gear. And at the time I bought it, which was about 3 years ago now, this was the biggest bag they make. I believe they called it the Deluxe or the Elite or something to that effect, but this was kind of their biggest, more premier bag of their house brand anyway. So if you're interested in this bag, go check out lapolicegear.com and you'll be able to find it on their website. But I'm not going to go over too much about bag layout and specs and stuff like that. This is more about what's in the bag, and as we go through the bag, you'll be able to see kind of the layout of the bag. So it's got a big opening with a double zipper on the top, and then the main compartment is where most of the stuff that I use for teaching a class or taking a class, most everything that I'll use is going to be in this compartment. So not really in any order, just kind of digging through and seeing what we have. The first thing that comes out, and this is probably the #1 thing that should be in everybody's range bag, and that's a trauma medical kit. This one happens to be from Dark Angel Medical because I've taken their training class, their 2-day direct action response trauma class, and this is their kit, which has the trauma shears and a Gen 7 cat tourniquet, and then all of your basic stop the bleeding type supplies inside of this kit. So if you're interested in that, check out Dark Angel Medical. And then moving on, we've got iPro and EarPro. So as far as my iPro goes, I use Rudy Project. This is kind of something that I don't skimp on. You've got one set of eyes, so take care of it. You don't have a second chance when it comes with your eyes. So Rudy Project is really high quality iPro, and these have photochromatic lenses in it, so transitioning from bright sunny daytime, they'll darken up like sunglasses, and then once you get into nighttime or cloudy days, as you'll see now, they're more of a clear lens. So that makes it really nice, only having one pair of iPro and not having to switch out as the day goes on. So Rudy Project for that. And then as far as EarPro goes, I'm using the MSA Sworden Supreme Pro X's. And the main reason I use these is because of the gel cups that they have. These gel cups are super comfortable, and when you're in a multi-day class, if you're wearing these for 10 hours a day, they don't give you a headache, from pushing on the side of your head, because they're just really soft, and they kind of conform to the side beams of your iPro, I guess, if you will. So when you've got your iPro on and then these pinch against the side of your head, it conforms really well around that side beam of your iPro. So next up, this is my magazine pouch, or magazine organizer, if you will. This is from Tough Products, and it's kind of nice because this holds 10 double stack magazines. So this is set up for Glock mags, and these are my training mags. I keep 10 magazines that kind of get the brunt of all the wear and tear from all my range trips, whether I'm teaching a class or taking a class. These are the 10 magazines that get a lot of wear and tear. So then I'm not using my carry mags in training classes and dropping them in the dirt and stuff. I try to keep my carry mags clean and then give all the abuse to these mags here. So it's always a good idea to have a separate supply of training mags. Then moving on, being that the last thing this was packed out for was a private training session with a couple. So for a private training session or for a personal practice session, I don't need a ton of ammo. So I use these, I believe they're called bang boxes from G-Code, and this one is labeled 9mm, and they kind of have like a hard bottom and then a zipper top, and then they'll hold just loose ammo in there. And for 9mm, you can fit somewhere around 200 rounds in one of these, which is just about right for a personal practice session. So there's some side pockets in this bag, and there's one on each side, so here and here. And in those side pockets, I will have targets and training material, and then in the other one, I keep a notebook, like a Write in the Rain style notebook. So whenever you're at class, it's really important to take notes, and then you can come back after class and kind of go over those notes and type it out. That's usually what I do. I'll jot down kind of the drills we do and what I struggled at and what I want to practice more, and then I'll come back and I'll type it all up so I have an outline of the class that I went to, so you can reference that at a later date. So moving on, I've got my shot timer. This is something that I use when I teach classes or for personal practice. I don't use it. I've never had to use a shot timer for a class that I've taken. It's never been a required item for any of the classes I've been in. So in these little side pockets, the gun that I used for my private training session with a couple, this is just my Glock 19 from Agency Arms. They were running iron sight guns, so this is just a full build from Agency, and it has the Dawson Precision Charger sights on it. So here is another item that I don't use a lot, but if I'm going to go to a competition shoot, let me pop it out of the bag so you don't have all the glare on it. But if I'm going to shoot competition, or if I'm in a multi-day class to where we're shooting 1,000 rounds in 2 days, or if I'm doing a personal practice session where it's a higher round count, I'll bring a bottle of this stuff, and it's called Pro Grip. And I actually learned about this in Aaron Cowan of Sage Dynamics in his class. He was using this. And it's kind of a grip aid, basically. It's a lotion that you put on your hands and you just let it haze over, and it keeps your hands dry, and you know, so you don't compromise your grip because of, you know, a sweaty hands or a wet grip or anything like that. So it's just a grip enhancer, and it makes it a little bit nice when you're doing a high round count or a competition shoot. So the other thing I have that's in a Ziploc bag on the bottom are these D-lead wipes. These are basically individually wrapped little towelettes to where when you're done with your practice session, you can kind of go over your hands with those and then rinse it off, and it helps lift all of the lead and the heavy metal deposits off from your skin. So if you go from the range to your house, like me, I've got young children, so I don't want those lead deposits coming back and getting on them, or anything that I might eat or drink or anything at the range. So I'll keep these in my bag and kind of use these as I need to. A couple things I keep in here just for teaching purposes or class purposes. One, my whistle. I found kind of over the years that you kind of get tired of yelling a threat command all day, so I'll use the whistle as a starter. And then the other thing is a mag loader. So a mag loader is not something that I use very often, but sometimes I'll have somebody in class that is struggling with loading their mags, so I'll let them borrow this. So the last few things I have in here is a roll of masking tape. When I do a personal practice session, it's always nice to be able to tape your hole and use the same target over and over. And then a Sharpie for the same thing to be able to mark your hits, and then a pen for the note-taking part of it. So now that we're through the main compartment, we'll take a look at these other compartments. Alright, so moving on to this larger front compartment, this is an area where I keep a lot of parts, tools, and supplies. So if myself or another student in class encounters any kind of issue with a gun, or if you have to change a battery in your optic or anything like that, most everything I need will be in this compartment. So these two zippers do zip all the way down, and then this compartment can kind of flop fully open. I don't normally do it that way, just because I have a couple tool kits in here that if I unzipped it all the way, they would just fall out. So we'll go through them first. These are just a couple little boxes that I bought from like a fishing tackle area of most any store. You can find these, but they work really good. I kind of keep one for tools and one for parts. So this has various Allen wrenches in it, and then a sight adjusting tool, and a Glock tool, and then a Glock front sight tool. That's one thing I saw in Aaron Cowan's class. It was a red dot class. We didn't have any red dots that failed that day, but we had over the course of the 2 days, we didn't have any red dots that failed, but we had 3 students that had iron sight issues on their red dot gun. So we saw iron sight failure a lot more than we saw red dot failure. So I always keep some Loctite and then some sight tools to where if somebody has a front sight post that comes loose, you can re-Loctite it and re-tighten it up. So the other one has some parts in here. I keep red Loctite, blue Loctite, some fiber optic rods for fiber optic front sight on my iron sight gun. I have Glock pin kit, connector, all the internal springs, recoil spring, complete trigger assembly, basically a complete set of internals for a Glock. Primarily that's what I shoot and that's what I train with, so I pretty much keep everything in here, so if I have any kind of issue I can fix it. Most classes that I go to, I'll bring a backup gun to where if I do have an issue I would just transition to the other gun and then I would fix the gun that broke at home. Fortunately I've never really had an issue in class to where I've had to do that, but I have seen other students have guns that have failed in class. So I always bring a backup. I mean, when you go to these training classes you spend a lot of time and a lot of money, and if you're having gun issues, you know, it just takes away from your ability to learn in the class. So that's kind of what this kit has, you know, and it also has spare batteries for my RMR. So now we can kind of open this pocket up a little bit more and show you what I have in here. So this has individual little pockets in here, and this one I keep CR123 batteries, which my handheld flashlight and my Surefire X300 both take these type of batteries, so I keep spares of those. And then I have some Slip 2000 cleaner and lubricant for the gun. So I have been in a couple classes to where they were high round count and the range was a really sandy environment, to where we were down on the ground a lot, so the gun was getting a lot of sand in it. So I would clean it in between days of the class. So that's why I have those cleaning supplies in there. It's not very often I would clean my gun between classes. Normally my training guns I clean every few thousand rounds. But in a situation like that to where it's getting a lot of sand and dirt induced into the gun, then I might break it apart and clean it. So like I said, I'm not having gun issues. That's taking away from my ability to learn in the class. So this here is a complete guide rod and recoil spring assembly for when I was running a compensator on my Glock 19. I would switch to a reduced recoil spring because the comp was so efficient on that gun that if you ran the stock weight recoil spring, sometimes it wouldn't fully cycle the slide all the way to the rear and all the way back up, and it could induce a stovepipe style malfunction. So I would run a reduced power spring in that case. Like I mentioned, the batteries for my RMR, these are the 2032 batteries, a 4-pack of Duracells. The Duracells seem to be a little more consistent as far as outside dimension specs than the Energizers are. And keeping on the topic of the optic, I keep some, it's called Cat Crap, and it is kind of like a Rain-X. It's an anti-fog cleaner type of compound for your optic glass. So it's just kind of this paste, and then I also have a couple Q-tips. So I'll put a little bit of this on a Q-tip, rub it on the glass on both sides, wait for it to haze over and clean it off, and it keeps your optic really, really clear. As far as other batteries go, I use one of these Theorem cell vaults, and these are really nice as far as just random batteries that you might have for electronic ear pro. They have a little divider inside, and you can store various sizes of batteries in this. And staying on the topic of batteries, I've got a couple 9-volt batteries which I use for my shot timer. So the other thing in this case is it has a bunch of pen pockets on the front, so I keep obviously some pens, some Sharpies, but then I also keep some paint markers too. So I've got a couple of these silver paint markers which are nice to mark your magazines, because if we look at my, let me zip this up so it doesn't fall back open. If we get my training magazine pouch back out and I pull that out, you can see I write my last name on the side of my magazine bodies, and after a while it does wear off and you have to reapply it, but It works pretty good when you're in a class and you have a bunch of magazines down on the ground after a drill. You know which one's yours, quick and easy, and you can pick it up. One other thing that I keep in this little pen pocket area is, let me slide it out, a tube of chapstick. And it's not for the intended purpose. The reason I use the chapstick is actually when I run a Surefire X300 weapon mounted light, I'll put a little film of chapstick over the lens of the light. So when we're shooting 1,000 rounds in 2 days or 500 rounds in 1 day, depending on what style class it is, I don't have all that carbon and stuff sticking to the lens of my Surefire light. So you put a little bit of film of that on it, and then at the end of class you can just wipe it right off and it's perfectly clean again. So it just keeps all that carbon from sticking to the lens of the light. Alright, so flipping this bag around, I've got 2 pockets on the other side. So in one pocket, I've got some cleaning supplies. So in this one I just have some of these blue shop towels that you can get in like the automotive section of any store, like a Walmart or something. And then I have a magazine cleaning brush. So this one's 4 Glock mags, and these are really nice. Like I said, I've been in classes to where the range is a really sandy environment and you're dropping magazines in the sand all day. So it's nice to have the ability to be able to pop the base plate off the magazine, which is what this tool is for. It goes over the magazine, you pinch it together to relieve the little side retainers. You can kind of see the little bump outs in there, and that pinches in on those side retainers on the magazine, and then you use the little spike end here in the handle to be able to pop the base plate off from your magazine. Slide the base plate out, pull the spring out, and then you can brush the tube of the magazine with this, put it back together. It's really quick and easy to do, keep your magazines running reliably all day. So other than that, I've got some other cleaning supplies like patches. As you saw, I have the cleaner and the oil in the other pouch. But then as far as cleaning stuff goes, I've got, this is just like a Glock cleaning tool. It comes with, you know, in the Glock box whenever you buy a gun. And then the nylon bristled brush. But one thing I wanted to talk about is this. A rigid rod is something you should always have in your range bag, whether you're taking a pistol class or a rifle class. If you ever encounter a squib load or a stuck case in the chamber, you can use this rigid rod to push it from the muzzle end to get it out. Otherwise it's really tough and you're kind of in a bad spot if you encounter that and you don't have one of these. So on the other side, I just keep a couple of bit kit type sets. These basically just have screwdriver tips and Torx bit tips, and those are really the only ones that I use. And most of the time the only reason I use these is to change a battery in an RMR. A lot of them have either an Allen style headed screw or a Torx bit style headed screw. Most everything they're going to now seems to be Torx bit. They seem to be a little bit of a stronger screw to where they don't strip out as much as the Allen style. So if we rotate this around, this end pouch has a place for a business card or a name tag or whatever you want to use to label your bag. I've never accidentally lost my bag or left it at the range, but you know, there's a spot for it, so you might as well put one in there. So this one just has a set of cheaper, like Walmart style rain gear. Now I keep a nice set of rain gear in the Adept Defense trailer, but if for some reason I'm at a class to where I didn't bring rain gear to where it wasn't supposed to rain, but then all of a sudden you get some freak rainstorm, I've got a set of rain gear. You know, I had a pouch. This folds up really small and fits in there, so I might as well have it. And there's also been situations to where other students have not had rain gear and you're able to loan it to somebody, kind of bail them out for the day. So on the other side of the bag, there's this spot here. You can use it for a paint can. If you're shooting steel targets, you might want to respray them with some spray paint. So there's that. The other thing I've used this pocket for is a roll of those blue shop towels. Like I mentioned, they slide right in there and that works out pretty well too. So in this last little pocket, I've got some spray on sunscreen and some bug spray. These are 2 things that I use at a lot of classes I go to. It'll either be hot and sunny or it'll be cool and buggy. So that seems to be the trend. A couple other things in here. One is this little cheap emergency rain poncho. If we do get one of those rainstorms, if I'm teaching a class, I have my trailer with me so I can go in there. But if you get a downpour and you're at a class, this little rain poncho works well to be able to use it to cover up your bag. You know, like I said, I've got rain gear for me, but it's nice to be able to cover up your shooting bag so, you know, the whole thing and all your contents don't get soaking wet too. So I keep that in my range bag. And then I just have a Ziploc bag with 2 Excedrin tablets in there. Sometimes at the end of class you might get a headache or something like that. It's nice to be able to have that so you don't feel miserable at the end. Alright guys, that's pretty much everything that I keep in my range bag, whether I'm teaching a class or taking a class. So hopefully you found this information useful and you might be able to incorporate a few things into your range bag. Like I said, there's some stuff in here that I don't usually use or need. I bring a spare gun with me, so a lot of the tools and the parts and stuff I wouldn't use, but it's nice to be able to bail somebody else out if they need it. If there's one takeaway that you get from this video, it's bring medical gear with you. Medical gear is the one thing that could potentially save your life. So if you don't have a med kit or a trauma kit in your range bag, incorporate that. And like I said, this range bag is from LA Police Gear. So if you have any questions about the bag or any of the contents in it, put it in the comments section. I do my best to answer all of those questions. I'm Jason Hitchings with Adept Defense. Seek training, become adept.